Hello everybody, I'm Isaac Dillon, and today we are here with my first geography presentation in a video. And today we're going to be talking about ancient Mesopotamia, also known as the land between two rivers. So without further ado, let's get started. So, I think I should first start off by explaining what Mesopotamia is. So Mesopotamia was a civilization that you can't find today, but the area it was in was between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. It started almost right after the worldwide flood and ended around 3000 BC when it was mostly under the control of the Sumerian people, which the civilization of Sumer was kind of a neighboring civilization to it. It may be a lesser known civilization, Mesopotamia, but its contributions to the world are very important and still impact us a lot today. So next we're going to discuss the currency in Mesopotamia. So Mesopotamia didn't really have an official currency system. They did have coins of different types of metal, but they mostly just bartered and traded. So coins could still technically be used, but you could buy something with something else, other than a coin, if a person you trade with agrees to the deal. I think it would be necessary to give you maybe a couple examples of bartering and trading so you kind of get the gist of what it is. One example of a barter you could do is 1 notebook for 10 pencils. Seems pretty even. I think it's fair for pretty much both sides of that deal. There will also be those types of trades where there will be a seemingly irrational deal, but someone wants something so bad that it's technically a fair deal for both sides. Let's say, for example, I was playing a game of golf and I just hit my last ball into the water. Yeah, that's basically the story of my life when playing golf. So I really desperately need one or I can't continue playing. So I walk over to the person I'm playing with and I make a deal with them. They give me 1 golf ball and I give them my golf hat. So you see, that isn't really that fair of a deal, but I really need the golf ball badly, so I'm willing to go at almost any extent, even if it seems a bit irrational. And then there's those types of trades that are just flat out bad, and only one person's going to benefit from it. Like, let's say one person wanted to trade their PlayStation for another person's Nintendo Switch. Obviously the person that owns the Nintendo Switch is getting ripped off. Anyway, getting back on topic, let's go ahead and discuss the geography of Mesopotamia. So like stated before, Mesopotamia lies between the Tigris and Euphrates, which are 2 major rivers in the area, and really the only 2 rivers in the area, let's be honest. The word Mesopotamia itself even means the land between 2 rivers in Greek, as stated in the first slide of this video, if you were paying attention. And the whole area itself runs about 300 miles long and 150 miles wide, so it isn't really a big region. The most important and honestly the only major landmark is the Fertile Crescent, which was an area that, as you might guess, is really fertile. Crops grew the best in this region, which is why Mesopotamia was also really agricultural and produced lots of barley, which is basically their major crop. They grew a lot of it, along with other types of wheat, but we'll discuss the food more in the food section of this video. So here we have a map of Mesopotamia and kind of the general area around it. You got the Fertile Crescent, and you got the 2 rivers, Tigris and Euphrates. And yeah, that's pretty much all the major landmarks of Mesopotamia. You also got a bunch of cities right there. 2 of them actually mentioned in the Bible, Nineveh and Babylon. Nineveh is the city that the prophet Jonah was supposed to go preach to because God told him to do it, but he was being a dingus and he didn't. He tried to escape to Tarsus, which is somewhere around here where it says Tarsus Mountains. I don't actually know that, I'm just assuming that. Long story short, he went and preached to there. It was great. Everyone got convicted. Actually, it really wasn't great. Then you got the city of Babylon, and they're basically the reason why we have all the languages we have today, so that's pretty cool. Again, not really cool, because the only reason we have all the languages we do today is because we all sinned against God. So we can just give ourselves a hand for being terrible. Alright, now it's time for one of 2 of my favorite parts of Mesopotamia, their inventions. So the coolest part about Mesopotamia is that they invented a lot of different things, some even still affecting our world today, as I mentioned in the second slide. So let's take a look at a few of them. The first one up is the wheel. This is probably one of their greatest inventions yet. So I'm sure you found yourself asking, where exactly did the wheel come from? There are all these conspiracy theories made, acting like they don't really know, but I'm sure some of them do. Mesopotamia is the civilization responsible for making of the wheel. It wasn't used for transportation right at first like we use it for nowadays mostly, until the invention of the chariot, but it was used for pottery making, irrigation, and milling. Next up is the plow, which was an invention helped to make farming easier. I mean, woo, exciting. And the next one is time, which I actually thought was kind of really interesting because I didn't know this. The idea of time was invented by the Mesopotamians, and they are responsible for why our hours are divided into 60 minutes and minutes into 60 seconds. You may also not know this, but the Mesopotamians are responsible for our basic mathematics system, which I think was pretty cool. Now, if you want to find someone to blame for the reason why you're in a really advanced math class you really don't want to be in, blame this guy. But anyway, since there are a lot of trade in Mesopotamia, they needed a system to be able to count goods they traded and received. They developed the sexagesimal system, which was based around the number 60. This may have been what led to minutes and hours having their sublevel seconds and minutes being 60. This system also led to the concept of the 360-degree circle and the 12-month year. So yeah, maybe they did contribute to advanced mathematics being a thing. Now, we're going to move on to the map. The first maps made by Mesopotamians were sketched on clay tablets, and gradually over time, other civilizations advanced the use of the map and made them bigger and more accurate. And now it's time for the slide everyone's been waiting for, food in Mesopotamia. So you could probably guess that since most of the land in Mesopotamia grew crops really well, their staple crop was barley and other types of wheat. They used these to make bread and fermented it into beer. They also grew legumes such as lentils, chickpeas, and beans. In addition to that, they also grew assortments of vegetables and fruits. Since they learned how to domesticate certain types of animals, they also had lots of meat and cheese as well. Now, just because the food section is over doesn't mean you should stop watching this video. We still got a couple other really cool facts about Mesopotamia before we're done. So this is probably one of my favorite things about Mesopotamia, and it's because I like secret codes and messages and stuff. So the written language was something called cuneiform. This was writing based on wedge-shaped symbols. The main purpose of this language was to keep records, which was how we were able to discover a lot about the civilization in the first place. And they all kept their records on clay tablets. So now we're on to the last slide, which is about Mesopotamian religion. So Mesopotamians were polytheistic, which means they believed in multiple different gods. Two of their main beliefs is that all gods lived in the underworld and the practice of divination. In addition to the gods living in the underworld, they also believed that's where the souls of the dead went. Daily sacrifices were made to the spirits of the dead. Divination was the process which a diviner would see certain things as a sign from the gods and try to interpret it. I mean, let's be honest, it would be really tough to be a Mesopotamian. Because I'm sure if you didn't want to follow the religion, then that would be no bueno for you. But also, there would just so many gods to keep track of, and you'd have to make sure you're doing everything right and respecting them in the correct way. I don't know how it all works. But also, I have a problem with this system. That would probably be a lose-lose situation for you if you're a Mesopotamian. What if there were two gods and they had contradicting, rules? Then what would you do? You would die either way, basically. But I'm sure that they wouldn't do that because all the rules about the gods were made by man because the gods were made by man. This now brings us to the end of this slide presentation on ancient Mesopotamia. And here we have the works cited page, which you probably don't care about, and let's be honest, the person grading this is the only one that cares about the fact that I cited my work here. Thanks for watching and have an amazing rest of your day.